As we saw in the video tutorial on basic styling with the form builder, there are a number of different ways to change the look and feel of your custom form. However, in some cases, you might need to make alterations that aren't covered by the out-of-the-box tools. Luckily, the form builder gives you some additional advanced ways to effect change. We've looked at the custom area on the styling dialog previously, but let's take a closer look. Using the choices in the pop-up menu, you can modify individual attribute properties for the form element that you have selected. For instance, if I want to change the padding of an element, that is, the space between the border and the content within the element, all I have to do is select the attribute and then enter the values I want. And I'll put in 15 pixel pad. And then the changes take effect when you click Save. So watch the title area there, and you'll see that the padding has increased. Now, a little note about managing styles. If you're making multiple changes to elements, you might find it helpful to separate different classes of change into different styles, i.e. Style 1 is fonts, Style 2 is colors, Style 3 is spacing, etc. Although it'll take a little more effort to create this, it will simplify management. You'll always know which style to go to make changes. There's also less chance of overlapping and conflicting commands using this method. Another way to fine-tune your form style is by using custom CSS. And sometimes, for some elements, you will actually have to do this if you want to change them. Some of the elements, such as the tab buttons, the color of the tab buttons, etc., is not controllable via the built-in controls. The biggest difficulty with CSS is knowing what element to change. Now, luckily, all browsers have developer tools built in that allow you to pinpoint specific elements and expose the CSS around them. However, it can still be a challenge to find the exact code for the element you want. This gets easier with time and familiarity, but you may need to practice before you're totally comfortable with it. In this example, I want to change the impact style tabs from the default turquoise color. Now, my first step is to turn on the developer tools. I'm using the Opera browser, and I can turn on the developer tools from the menu, or I can press Shift, Control, and the letter I. And that will open up the developer tools. And I'm going to move them down to the bottom because that makes it a little easier to see. Now, with the developer tools on, I'll click this little element selector tool, and then I'll float over the elements that I'm looking for. And you can see as I float, it highlights different things. And the real tricky bit here is you have to make sure that you're getting the whole thing that you want. You see this tab here has got a text element inside, and it's got some other things. But this is probably what we want. And when I click on it, it highlights this area down in the elements code. And you can see we've got this big long ID that is defining that code. Now we can work with this ID number, but it might be a little bit easier if we go over to the styles column here on the right, and here we can see the actual defined classes on all this. Plus we can see the additional states, active and hover and focus and all that other stuff. So probably the best, easiest way to do this is to just work with this here. Now, in the panel here, you see we've got the color, and I can click right here and it'll open up a color selector. Let's say I want to go to a nice kind of dark red color. So I'm going to use the selector, pick something there. That's the one I want. I'll say OK, and then we'll just escape out of there. Oops, sorry, it didn't take it. Let me do that again, just real quick. We'll take that color right there, that color. And I'll select that. I'll copy that. I'll get out of here. Okay, that time it took the color. And you see in the window, it has changed the color there automatically. So that's a way that you have of testing how your CSS is going to look. Now, the thing is, changing it here does not change it permanently on the page. This is just a preview, and if you were to refresh the page, this would all disappear. So what we want to do now is, I think this is the easiest way to do this. Just copy all this stuff down to the closing bracket, copy that, and then go into the CSS icon in the menu. And we can close this now if we want. And let's just go ahead and paste that in right there. Then we'll close this. And we can see when we go to preview, this is how it's going to look. So we don't have to worry about building in that other activity. It's already there. You can go in and fiddle with this to your heart's content. But this is a simple example. Now, when I save the, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to refresh the page. And this should come back up. And our colors are still there. They did stick. Now, one other thing that you might be wanting to know about with CSS, if you don't want to use this right now, we can go back into the CSS window, and I can make this CSS inactive without erasing it. If I'm still experimenting and maybe I'm going to change my mind and I don't want to lose this, what I can do is I can sort of memo it out. If I use a slash and an asterisk, if I use a slash and an asterisk to begin, and then an asterisk and a slash to end, that turns all of this into memo text, and it will not take effect. You see, it's gone back to the default value right there.